Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from the Truman Show, wherever you are, right? So, 3x class flares in 1 week. It's no wonder that our bodies are feeling like rah, a little out of sync. But before we get all worried about this, that something's wrong, let's look at what really happened and why the sensations are proof that we're expanding and not collapsing. So, I use the 3X class flares title, and that you're not falling apart for a reason that you aren't. And it's really, really key to get that there's pieces that are falling into place that we haven't really thought about before, right? So the sun has been roaring yet again after sea level, even B levels for months and months. And then I have to laugh. There was a solar flare this morning at 38 a.m. and I'll talk about that. But now it's at C1 again. And I just have to laugh because it's like these big bursts or a couple, one or two or three in a row, and then they go quiet again, right? So let's start. On Tuesday, the 5th, we had two X class flares 5 hours apart. Both were X1. And then on Wednesday, we had two M class, which was one was an M7.8 and one was an 8.8. So an M class goes into an X class. So it meant that we were on the verge of it on Wednesday twice, right? And then this morning at 12:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we had another X1. So they're coming in X1s. They're not coming in really hot, really high. They're just coming in enough to take us out of the tower moments and put us into imagination, put us into flow. So when you think of the flares, again, the C's are the tap, tap, tap. Like, what am I supposed to do? The M's are like these tower moments, these moments where they could either be really nice or they could be, like this, or they could come in, they could just shatter you apart. Because what they're saying is that your physical environment isn't lined up with who you're becoming anymore. So that's what the M classes are. And the X class, what's his name? Andrew. He's the galactic historian. He says that when we go into an X class flare, we go into expansion and imagination. So we've had three of those this week, which I think is really interesting because there's been like a surge of excitement. There's been a little restlessness, maybe even fatigue or buzzing, the usual buzzing. But that's plasma talking. That's plasma talking now because the waves, these are waves of solar intelligence moving directly to our bodies and our fields. So now what I think is really fascinating is that 3i Atlas, and we talked about 3i Atlas last week, right? Is the plasma collector. And plasma as itself is a library that collects data from everything it passes and shares data with everything it passes. So it came to the closest point of the sun on October 29th to 30th, depending on what part of the world you're in, right? And since then, the sun has been pulsing these massive plasma waves back to Earth, almost like answering a conversation, almost like sending us new data, like, oh, I got an upgrade here. Let me send this to you. I'm not really sure, but to me, it feels kind of, I would say exciting, kind of new, kind of different, because the flares before used to sort of exhaust me, but now they're coming in and they're sort of expanding me into this really like, wow, I've got some energy, right? It's also sort of settling in, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more too. So, what's happening isn't random; it's coordinated. It's absolutely coordinated, and we're being lit from within. So, what I want to talk about is this water energy. And I have all of these cups up here for you to take a look at. Here's the one I showed you. This is what it looks like when it's playful. This is what the Queen of Cups can do when she's ignited. This is how we go with the flow. And this is how we trust, right? And so, we're in this deep water energy, right? Neptune and Saturn are in Pisces. Sun and Mercury and Mars are in Scorpio, and Jupiter's in Cancer. So it's holding all three of the modalities, the fixed, the mutable, and the cardinal. And it's in a full water trine that's going to stay with us through the beginning of 2026 into end of January, February, right? So this isn't just emotional sensitivity. This is total saturation of feelings and memory and ancestral knowing. These waves are just not linear. This energy doesn't kind of come along and take you in a direct path. It weaves you through up and down because they come from the deep past. They come through they swirl into our present and they wash up everything that we haven't faced yet. Welcome to Scorpio. It is going to dredge up everything that we haven't faced yet. And then if you look, he's got a Sith and I use this card all the time because I think it's the best work for us to focus on, which is when you cut those deep past chains, they free up some energy and you can see these bubbles, right? Of absolute energy coming forward. Iris J called this the spirit of courage. It's not exactly easy, but it's exactly what it takes to stay open with everything within shifting tides. Makes sense? So I found something by Magnetize Yourself on Instagram, and many of you are noticing that your bodies are reacting differently. Plans are falling apart. You suddenly don't want to go anywhere that you thought you would. I get all dressed up and then just go sit down. Or more like I think I want to rally over the weekend or at night. And by about 4:30 or 5, I'm like, I have reading to do. I want to do something else. It's really interesting that what I thought isn't going to happen. And Magnetize Yourself said it perfectly. Sometimes the body quietly begins to reject a timeline before the conscious mind understands why. So this isn't avoidance, it's calibration. Body's withdrawing energy from outdated portals, people, patterns, and timelines that no longer match with your frequency. They just are out of sync, out of alignment, incoherent, dissonant, right? It may show up as heaviness, it may show up as fog or fatigue, but that's wisdom. That's our wisdom in motion. So if we know that there's this water trine and we are being pummeled by the solar flares and we're in this point of here's the hanged man, right? The Pisces sign of total surrender and surrender with attitude, surrender like this is going to be fun. Hang me upside down. Let's see what I do, right? I want to talk about, where it is. Here it is right here. And I'm going to knock things down. Oh, shoot. The Indigo assignment. Because you've asked for more Indigo work, and I'm going to link all of this over to the Indigos. So let's talk about them. Let's talk about them. So if you're watching this, there's really a good chance that you're an Indigo. Makes sense, right? You came to Earth knowing that you were placed in a dense family system that was emotionally complex, maybe even painful, maybe even traumatic, because this is where the old codes live. You volunteered to dismantle contraction and reintroduce expansion. So let's get out of the good guy, bad guy, and go into contraction, where things get tighter and tighter and tighter, out of control, or expansion, where they're open to flow and change and create, right? This is the masculine, this is the feminine. In tarot cards, this is how we teach the Empress of expansion and the masculine of contraction and structure, right? You came here to unlearn disobedience or unlearn obedience, right? To be disobedient, to question authority, to soften structure into something more humane and collaborative. That's what you were here for. That's what this assignment is. And you kind of boasted and said, this is going to be easy. I can do that. And those of us who are here now are like, what was I thinking? How did I sign up for this? Right? And that is exactly the curriculum that we're in right now. Personally, collectively, and cosmically going, what the F? How the heck did I get here? How am I going to do this? And how am I going to endure all of this water energy, this trine, this emotional, furling of all of these codes that are in the family DNA that I embody, right? So here's where it gets really interesting. In the book, I also tie in the tree of life. And so I want to talk about the dialogue between the mind and the heart, between Hod and Netzach, right? So Mercury just turned retrograde and it's moving today, today until the 29th, and it's moving through Sagittarius back into Scorpio. Yet again, our dear, nasty little friend, Scorpio, right? This activates Hod on the tree of life, which is the sephra of, or the sphere, if you want to call it that, of the intellect, the language, how we communicate, and structure, sort of known structure or constructed structure for a reason, right? Its counterpart is Netzach, who's ruled by Venus, right? The sphere of intuition, emotion, beauty, and art. So the human body holds these spheres, these sephras on it, and Hod corresponds with the right hip, and Netzach corresponds with the left hip. So if you're feeling lower back or hip pain, throughout your entire life, which is part of the balancing constantly between the thinking and the feeling, thinking and feeling, it goes to our lumbar, L3, 4, 5. It goes into our hips. It goes into our sacral. It goes into everything. Then you're literally embodying the imbalance between these two if there's pain. This makes so much sense to me. And so there are times when I can feel like Mercury pulling and the left hip is going like, ouch, I don't know what to do to rebalance this. So in my personal experience, the hips have been where all of this work has been happening. And it may be doing that for you. Because again, we're embodying these imbalances between these two intelligences. So the mind has been overused for millennia, right? What do we want to do? We want to say 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, 2,000 years, 5,000 years, 10,000 years. Just keep adding to it, right? Because it's structure without softness. It's reason, which is Mercury, which is the right hip, without rhythm. And now the intuitive side of water wants to rise up and meet it. The invitation is balance. And I think did I put balance on here? Well, I didn't. I don't have a card for balance. So because our intuitive side is rising up to meet it, it's our role to walk through the world with intelligent, right? Intelligent approaches and intuitive partnership. So we're balancing both. This is what I see. This is what my senses are gathering. This is how I put it into construct. This is how we balance the two. And we know that it's going to go up and it's going to go down, and we're going to get it, and then we're not going to get it, and then we're going to get it, and we're not going to get it. And it goes back and forth. So I have 6 tips for you. And before I go on with those tips, I wanted to yet again remind you that I have a Patreon channel, a Patreon site. It has a membership. And for that membership, we have a Tuesday, I didn't bring my notes in here. I was going to show them to you. A Tuesday discussion group where we sort of, this last week we said, so what do you got in your pockets? What are you noticing? And we sort of laid out everything and then validated with each other what we saw. So if that's something that you want to participate in, by all means, come to Patreon and join the membership. And if you want to just sign up for free, you can read all of the chats and posts that we put in as members to share. And if you're on that Patreon, please post what you're reading because it's always interesting. Okay, so 6 tips for you to navigate, right? To navigate this integration that we are in, and holy smokes. Okay, so number 1 is to honor the waves. Whoa, don't fight them. These waves of emotions are going to come up. Your water is like being in a cosmic ocean. And as we know about waves, they're rhythmic and they continue and they go up and they go down, and they're exhausting if you're fighting them, but they're a lot easier if you're floating with them, right? So when the emotional tides rise, don't label them as regression or weakness at all. Label them as cleansing. Label them as feeling. Each swell clears the debris from your field. So honor the waves and don't fight them is number one. Okay, number two, listen when the body says no. No means no. No is a full sentence, right? When your energy withdraws from a plan, a person, or a project, pause. Don't like crunch up and push through. So what you do is your body knows before your mind does. So don't push through it at all. Realign and what was the word? Renegotiate. This is a time of renegotiating. Like, yeah, I changed my mind. I don't want to do that anymore. Sorry. And do it with respect for the people who are counting on you, but it's okay to renegotiate, right? Number three, balance your hips, balance the hemispheres, balance the the masculine and the feminine, right? Because when you feel tight in your lower back or your hips, move gently. I do a lot of swaying. I don't do like big exercises or move my hips around. I just sort of rock them and sway. And I walk and I breathe really gently because I know that they're under a lot of duress and I'm not trying to stretch them to make them stronger. What I'm doing is I'm honoring that they're holding heavy loads, right? And every physical movement becomes a ceremony of harmonizing Hod and Netzach, mind and heart, right and left. So balance your hips. Let's see, what do we got? Number four, reframe the symptoms as signatures. So when you're feeling that fatigue or ringing in the ears or emotional release, these are not malfunctions at all. This is not you getting ready to leave this earth or your body tanking or your fears coming up. What it is it's a signature. It's these are freedom codes that are announcing that your system is no longer consenting to be contracted. No, I'm not going to contract anymore. I'm not going to do that. So when you start to relax, it's all these pieces of you loosening up and coming out. Okay, number five, anchor in simple order. And I think that this is where I'm a double Pisces, but I pull from Virgo all the time. I have a Virgo father and a Virgo daughter, and I love the Virgo energy because it's where I bring small areas of my physical world into coherence. It might be that I brought this old table in for a desk and I cleared it all out and set it all up again. It might be that I found this great little TV stand, but it was old. So I got some beeswax or bee oil, honey oil, and just massaged and brought the wood to the surface. So, whether it's your workspace or your kitchen or your garden or whatever, your kitchen drawer, right? Order outside creates permission for peace inside. So that's when we talk about clutter. It isn't because you should need to have shame for having so much stuff. It's because when you have order outside, it creates peace inside. Make sense? And number six, the final one always, is to lead with compassion because everybody's being rewritten by these frequencies. And some of us are resisting, or some will project, some will make it about it, or blame. Meet them with compassion, not correction. It's really important because compassion is the bridge between the worlds, the frequency that keeps the human heart open while we evolve. It gets us out of our minds and into our hearts. So, as we move through this next week, right, of more solar waves coming in, of these watery emissions that are going to keep with us for the next 2 months at least, remember, you're not falling apart, you're falling into alignment. Remember that. And as as Sabrina from Rewilding said, she used to call it chaos the way her body said no when her mouth said yes. Now she knows it was clarity. So this is our clarity moment. Our bodies are unlearning obedience. Our spirits are remembering freedom. And together we're walking this new earth into being. So I have a journal prompt for you before I sign off. I'd love to give it to you. So it's here because sometimes I don't post it right away. Where in my body do I still grip control? And how might that tension soften when I trust the recalibration? Where in my body do I still grip control? And how might that tension soften if I trusted the recalibration? So I'll leave you with that. Please share your comments, ask for what you want. I read all of these and I comment, as you know. I'd love to hear from you. So place a comment there. Come join us at Patreon and have a very peaceful, wonderful week. Take care. Bye bye.